Okay, so we're solving two-step equations again. Remember, two-step equations that we've already talked about look like this. And in a problem like that, it's called a two-step because you have to get rid of your constant by subtracting in this one. That's one step. And then I have to get rid of my coefficient by dividing. That's a second step. Okay? So we're going to show you two different ways to solve two-step equations today with parentheses like this. One way that you're pretty familiar with is using the distributive property. So notice I just did 6 times y is 6y, 6 times a positive 4 is a positive 24, minus 15. Then we get rid of our constant by subtracting 24 on both sides. Since that cancels, I'm left with 6y is equal to, when I combine, that would be negative 39. I get rid of my coefficient by dividing on both sides, and I have my answer. Okay? So it would work the same way here. 5 times g is 5g. 5 times negative 3, you could write it two ways. You could write it as a minus 15 or plus a negative 15. And it equals 11. So then I saw from there, I get rid of my constant. So I have 26 is equal to 5g. I divide by 5 on both sides. And remember, we're trying to always write our variable first so that we don't have issues when we get to inequalities. And 26 divided by 5 is 5.2. Now, if you go to check your answers here, the key to this is when you plug it back in, make sure you're plugging it back into the original. Because if you distributed wrong, you might still get the right answer for this equation, but that might not be the same thing as this. Okay, so always plug it back in. So to plug it back in, I would type in 5, parenthesis, g I found was 5.2, minus 3, close the parenthesis, and hit equals. And I'm hoping to get 11 when I hit equals. And I did, so I know it's right. Okay? So that's the easy part. You guys know how to do distributive property. You know how to solve two-step equations like that. The more difficult part is, it's not really difficult, it's just new, I guess we should say. Okay? So when you would go to solve a problem like this, what you would have done is you would have said, okay, it's multiplying, so my opposite is division. So here, oops, sorry, I'm writing the wrong numbers in, and so I'd get my x equals 3. Okay? On this one, we are really doing multiplication just like this. Here it was 4 times x, here it's 4 times this quantity. So, to get rid of the 4 out front, we can do the same thing and divide, just like we did here. So I'm going to divide the whole thing by 4, and that ends up canceling these out because 4 divided by 4 is just 1. So what's left is x plus 3 on that side. Remember, if I divide by 4 on one side, the division property of equality says I have to divide by 4 on the other side. So 28 divided by 4, I have 7. X plus 3 equals 7. That's a one step. I just subtract 3 on both sides and get x is equal to 4. Okay? Now, if the number out front is a fraction, remember when we do problems like this, we said, okay, instead of dividing, which we could divide by 2/3, that would work, but it's easiest if we don't have a calculator, if we don't have to try to remember division, oh, that's keep, change, flip, and all of that stuff. So instead, I can multiply by my reciprocal, because if I do that, now my 3's cancel, my 2's cancel, and I'm left with x is equal to, well, 4 times 3 is 12, divided by 2 is 6. Okay? So same thing here. We would multiply by the reciprocal. So notice they did the reciprocal was 5/3. What I do to one side of the equation, I have to do to the other. My 5's canceled, my 3's canceled. I was just left with m minus 6 equals 5/3 times negative 9 is negative 15. Now that you have a one-step equation, you add 6 to both sides, and you get negative 9. Okay. On this one, we'll distribute, or not distribute, we're going to try it the new way, I'm sorry. So divide by -2 on both sides. That gives me -11 equals, the 2's cancel, the negatives cancel, it's y minus 3. So add 3 to both sides, and I'd get y is equal to -8. Same thing on this one. Divide by 3.2, divide by 3.2. That gives me x plus 3.7 is equal to 1.5. I would subtract 3.7 on both sides and find that x is equal to -2.2. And again, remember, if the number out front is a fraction, we would multiply by the reciprocal. So if it was something like this, okay, so I multiply by my reciprocal. That would be 2 over 1. So I'd get the 2's cancel, the 1's cancel. I'd have x minus 4 is equal to 20. I'd add 4 to both sides, and I'd get x is equal to 24. Okay? Don't forget, when you plug it back in, you always plug it back into the very original. Okay? If you have any questions on these, let me know. There are some story problems. You'll want to look over how to do that story problem. And if you need help with writing the Got It, you can just let me know.